Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Ben?
Yeah, not bad. And I've had a chat before this anyway for like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess we normally start on the We Chat Tech podcast with a bit about our guests. So yeah, do you want to quickly sort of introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Lauren Sears. I am the Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist at Wushu Studios. I've been here for about 3.5 years now, and Wushu is a game development studio primarily focused on code development.
Nice, fair play. And obviously your career, we've known each other, Lauren, for 3, 4 years, I guess,
Mhm.
from when you worked at Access Pay before.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been a long time since we've actually met in person and stuff. But I think your recruitment career has been a bit different to maybe most people. Can you give us a bit of a background in terms of where you started and how it all began for you in terms of the working life?
Yeah, sure. I started my career in HR, and I think that there's obviously a lot of crossover between HR and recruitment. But so started off working in HR for Marks and Spencer, then Slater and Gordon, so legal sector. Then I worked for like a business consultancy that was sort of in a academic sector, and then after that, I sort of realized after a while doing like a hybrid role that was recruitment and HR that I think I preferred recruitment and I wanted to kind of lean in that direction. So after that, I joined Access Pay, which is a fintech, as their recruitment manager. And then after that, I joined Wushu in recruitment.
Nice. Definitely. So, and before that, before your working career, Lauren, you mentioned before the podcast started about you working in biology.
Well, I had a
So
biology
what was your
degree.
educational background?
Yeah, I graduated with a biology degree. Don't ask me why. It was my parents said I needed to do something academic, but I never really knew what I wanted to do. So for me, after uni, it was a case of like trying things until something stuck.
Yeah,
I wasn't one of those people that was like, oh, I've always wanted to do this. I just kind of didn't really know what was out there. So yeah, I just tried a few different things until I found something that I was good at and that I enjoyed.
I feel like most people have that same thing in life where you're like a 20-year-old, 21-year-old person. You don't really know what you want to do. You're not really mentored, I don't think, until you try stuff as well. So I think the first couple of years is like almost experimenting in terms of what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy,
Mm.
environments and stuff and sectors and whatever else. And I think I was the same. I didn't have a clue after college what I wanted to do.
I
So
think everyone in recruitment, like they always say, like no one plans to be in recruitment. You
yeah,
just end up here. But I think yeah, you go one of two ways. I know people that are like, oh, if this has always been my passion and this is the thing that I want to do, and almost felt a little bit lost because a lot of my friends had that sort of, like thing that they'd always wanted to do
yeah.
or thing that they were super passionate about, and I was just like, I don't know.
You feel a bit like an outsider. I think in my case, I felt like an outsider because everybody was at university and I wasn't really sure like where my life was going to head. I just know I
Mm.
wanted to be successful in something, but I didn't know where that was going to be. So I feel like a lot of them had their parents help to plan their life out for them, and I just didn't really want to follow what my parents wanted me to do. I was a bit like a rebel.
Mm.
So I'm not sure if you were the same, but that's the way that I felt anyway.
I don't think they really wanted to force me, like, other than the degree, they were like, oh, you should do like an academic degree because then it was that thing, like, I think because I graduated like, what, 2014, there was that belief that like everyone would just walk straight into a graduate job that was like 30K a year. And that was like such a shock when I was like, oh, it wasn't
This
like
is
that.
hard. Yeah.
It took me a while to actually enter the workforce in like a full-time permanent role. So I had like a few temporary roles after uni just to kind of make ends meet.
I don't know. What do you enjoy about your sort of job at the moment then? Because
Mhm.
obviously you've gone into the gaming industry a few years back and you've
Yeah.
been there since leaving Access Pay all those sort of years ago. So
Mhm.
what do you enjoy about your current role and what made you join a Wushu as
Mhm.
well?
Well, I was quite so. I unfortunately I got laid off from my previous job. But I was quite lucky that when I did get laid off, the job market was pretty good. Like it isn't now, and I'm like, oh god, if I got laid off now, I think I would
Yeah.
struggle. Like, and I ended up with three different job offers at the time. So one was like for a startup app, one was for a similar industry that I ended up um to the one that I ended up in, but it was working for someone that did sort of like VR and AR experiences, and then obviously the Wushu offer as well. So I was quite lucky in that respect that I ended up here. But the thing that, well, there was a few things that drew me to Wushu. So first of all, like, I didn't really, like I said, I didn't have this like passion of going into the game industry. It hadn't even occurred to me that it was an industry. Like, it was just like I grew up playing games, but it hadn't
Yeah.
even occurred to me that, like, oh yeah, people make these. um, because obviously,
They're just there, aren't they?
yeah,
Just there,
yeah, they're
out of
just
nowhere.
there. They're just things. It's like films and TV. You just think that that's like a thing, but
I
it's like
know.
unaccessible, and I think you don't really realize like how much goes into it or how big the teams are, and then. I think when you work in an operational capacity, like, you know, your HR, your recruitment, your marketing, your IT, all of that, you can basically work in any industry. So it doesn't always really matter, like, you know, if you haven't had that experience in that particular sector. But yeah, it was appealing, and yeah, thought it'd be cool industry to work in. And the things that I enjoy about my role is it is quite varied. So there's a couple of different areas that I kind of put my hand up and stepped into. So as well as recruitment, I mean, there is natural overlap with marketing anyway, with sort of like the employer branding side, the whole EVP piece. But I've taken over as of sort of last year. So I manage all the social media and communications.
Oh wow.
Um, and I also act as sort of a academic and engagement liaison person. So if any universities want staff or myself to go in and give talks on how to get into careers, employability, stuff like that. So there's a few different things, and I think I enjoy the variety that you get with recruitment.
That's a lot of hats long, by the way. A lot of different hats to wear in one company.
Yeah.
How have you found the transition from just being maybe solely focused around either HR or recruitment, and now having to be involved in like the social media aspect? Because that is one thing that I obviously have my own company. We do a lot of social
Yeah.
media stuff ourselves. We don't pay like a company to do it for us. So I get how mentally draining that could be to sort of schedule posts and having to sort of put time aside to actually focus on that. How have you found that? Because that's something that I'm really quite intrigued by.
It can be, obviously, you know, you have your priorities. So like, I think for us, we have natural peaks and troughs with recruitment, like I think most places do. But we're very much at the whim of like securing new projects and stuff like that. So like, I just try and manage like the priorities. So if recruitment's super busy, I'll let the sort of social media thing maybe drop off a little bit, because again, for us, I think it would be different if we were like a B2C business, but we're more
Yeah.
B2B. And that in itself has challenges in terms of how you approach the social media, because we're not selling a product. So you'll probably notice like we don't have our own IPs or our own games. And when we're working on projects, they're all under NDA. So it's not even like we could talk about what we're doing. So it is very much sort of focusing on us as a studio, sort of marketing ourselves, like who are we? It's more of an awareness piece. So there's challenges with that as well. But yeah, when recruitment picks up, I do kind of, yeah, just reprioritize and maybe like, yeah, we don't need to post on Instagram like every day.
And like you got like Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, all these different avenues that people now look at, and it's like almost like a race. It's a race to try and get that viral piece of content a lot of the time. Even when you're recruiting and stuff, you make a really inspiring post. If you get like 50 likes, your brand is going to be seen by thousands of people. So I think brand awareness is so underrated, I think, by some companies, and it can be really good for marketing. It's free marketing as well, which I think is really good. I guess, Lauren, like for you, how does gaming differ to other industries you've worked in? Because I think we have worked with some game companies on the recruitment side before, but they do work a bit differently from our point of view to standard or different industries. How have you found the difference?
I think the main thing for me is, but I did have this a little bit when I transitioned into tech. It is less corporate than, like, I came from super corporate background, you know, dress code, like very strict, like KPIs. Whereas gaming, obviously, it's a creative sector. You know, like hoodies are the uniform, but it's the same in tech, really. Um, yeah, I just think it's a slightly different vibe in that. it's a little bit, yeah, just less corporate, I would say. That's probably the main difference. I mean, like I was saying, like with the operation, every business has got operations. I think your very small startup studios might be massively different to sort of where we are now, because we've got probably about 180-ish people. So we're quite, we've been going for 8 years. We're well established, business. But I think those sort of maybe like indie startup studios are probably a lot less organized than we are. We still, we're using Teams, we're using Slack, we do all the things that a normal business would. So I wouldn't say there's massive differences. I'd just say it's just kind of more the vibe.
I love Slack, by the way. Slack is our savior. We use it all the time. We use Teams for like certain things,
Yeah.
for interviews and stuff, but for like direct communication between our team, Slack is just like, we love it so much. So good. One thing that I noticed on your LinkedIn, and the thing you've told me yourself before as well, is obviously you have a direct sourcing model and it's 100%, I believe.
Yep.
How have you implemented that at Wushu and how is it going? And
Um,
third bit to that is, how would you go about setting it up in future for another talent person going into that model?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously prior to myself and my boss is a talent acquisition director, Craig. So prior to us joining, there was no recruitment team. So it was a bit like, I think the business development director used to get involved. And I think when the business was small, they did used to handle it by themselves. And then I think they ended up moving towards an agency model, but obviously that can get pricey. And then when we kind of had that pandemic boom, I think is when they were like probably like, oh, we need to get like a proper dedicated talent acquisition team, because obviously it saves the business money. But then we were able to come in and establish processes, implement an ATS, and then start doing those other additional pieces that I mentioned earlier, like obviously touching on marketing, touching on external engagement and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's easy to do. I think if you know what to do in terms of recruitment, and especially one thing that I really enjoy is going into a business where there isn't really any processes, or there's no software, and then figuring out how you're doing things now, how can we do things better, getting that software in place, and then taking it from there. I think our volumes as well of recruitment aren't super high. And it is an industry in general where a lot of people do want to work. I mean, it was, I think maybe 2022 when I joined, there were certain roles that were hard to fill. And that was just because everyone wanted these roles. They were in demand, and there's only a finite of people that have those skills.
Yeah.
But you're going to get that, in any industry really. So I don't think we find it particularly challenging, especially now, where there's been a lot of layoffs in the industry. So every time we do post a role, it is, we are inundated with a lot of people. So it has been easier to recruit, I would say now, more so than when I joined.
There's been so many redundancies in gaming, hasn't there, the last sort of 24 months or so, like, especially up north, Lauren. A lot of the gaming studios are up north, aren't they, in the UK, from what I know. And like,
I think they're pretty spread out, but yeah, there's been southern closures as well. I don't think it's just enough, but
fair
yeah.
enough. Fair play. Fair play. I think you mentioned about candidates might find it hard to get into the gaming sector on LinkedIn with me the other day. What are your thoughts around that? Why do people find it hard to break into the industry of gaming?
I think so. I'll address this in sort of two parts. So, like, why it's always been hard, and then why it's especially hard now. So I think it's always been hard because there's only a finite amount of jobs. Especially now, like universities have kind of cottoned on to like the gaming industry does quite well. It makes a lot of money, and people want to be in it because games are popular.
Yeah.
So all the different universities start to cotton onto that. Start, running games courses, or like games art or games design or games programming, and then every year you get thousands and thousands of graduates, but there's not the same amount of roles. And then the second aspect of that is, especially now, I think the gaming industry has always had peaks and troughs. As most tech businesses, we see sort of booms and then sort of shrinkages. And I think we had a massive boom during the pandemic. Obviously, games super popular. People couldn't go out, couldn't go anywhere. So, and then a lot of companies obviously, expanded because of that. And now we're kind of seeing that post-pandemic shrinkage. But then also, I think it's notoriously mismanaged at times where companies will, once they've got their product, their game, and it's, they've made it, they don't really, some of them are like, well, we don't need a team anymore. So I think one of the things that could happen that might be a bit more of I don't know if it's a better business model, but if we sort of replicate what they do in sort of film and TV, where everyone is a contractor, and then you can maybe manage people's expectations a little bit. There won't be as many layoffs because then we're hired for this project, we do this project, and then we do another one, which has always happened in TV and film. But yeah, it's just, it seems quite disproportionate now, the amount of layoffs, studio closures, or there's like a habit of large studios buying smaller studios and closing those. So yeah, there's a lot of different factors as to why it's hard to get in, and especially now.
Yeah, I think for graduates, I really feel for grads at the moment because we're seeing, obviously, we're like the more sort of like DevOps and cloud space, but like the amount of grads that can't get into that realm as a first job, I
Mm.
think it's really hard for people
Yeah,
in tech
there's
across the
definitely
board to get a job.
there's definitely less entry level jobs as well. And I get it. Like we do take juniors. We don't take many. But it wasn't something that we've always done because we wanted to feel like we were at a size where we could facilitate that.
Yeah.
We do work for clients, so we don't want to just like bring people in that are completely inexperienced, not have the support systems for them, and just be like, off you go, throw them in at the deep end and expect them to perform. We know it's not like that. So we have kind of, I think year on year, we try and take a couple of grads, a couple of juniors, and then hopefully we can develop them. And we just signed to take our first ever intern who's going to start with us in January.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's the
Okay.
first for us. It's something I've been pushing for a while. And I think, fingers crossed, if that does well, it will be a case study for us to facilitate more of those. And hopefully, yeah, give more entry level opportunities.
That's amazing, mother. So can you describe a bit about the intern you've sort of brought on board for January?
Yeah, so it was Into Games is an organization that helps people get, as the name suggests, into games. But they specifically help people from sort of underrepresented or like disadvantaged backgrounds. So we've partnered with them, and they basically found us someone who fit what we were looking for. They were local. So yeah, they're going to come into the studio 2 days a week for 12 weeks. And we'll see how it goes.
Oh, wow. Are they paid, unpaid? How does that sort of dynamic work?
Yeah, they are paid via Into Games, and the hope is if they do well, we'll just hire them permanently afterwards. Full time junior.
I think that's a really nice thing to do, actually. Are they pre-degree, sort of, are they after college, or what sort of like points in their life are they at?
No, they are at graduate level. It is difficult in games, I would say, unless you're self taught. The usual route is that you do go to university, just because there's a lot of technical skills involved. It isn't the be all and end all. I have met people that are self taught and they're phenomenal, and I do have like a huge level of respect for that. But it is one of those industries as well that isn't always great for people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So if you can't afford university, or you can't even afford the kit, like you need, the latest state of the art like PC, you need software licenses, and then to learn the technical skills on top of that. So there are a lot of barriers to people getting into the
Yeah.
industry as well.
I think you can be as good as you want, but unless you have some of the stuff provided for you, I think it's really hard to make
Yeah.
something to get to a really high level. So I understand that completely. Fair play for doing that as well. It's really cool to hear. When it comes to the actual psychology of creative hiring, Lauren, I've done a few creative roles before when I was more junior in my career, and I think the psychology is a little bit different because yes, the technical skill is one area when you're hiring someone in like a designer sort of background for a gaming company, etc. But I think the actual creative mindset they have, how do you assess someone on how creative they are as opposed to just being purely technical?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, some of our roles are more creative than others. We've got programmers, but then we've got artists. So with the artists, I would say like we, try and find out like what is their process. How did they come up with something? Did they have a concept? Was there a brief? So like when we are looking at portfolios for artists, it's key that we see breakdowns so that we can see that like how did you come up with the thing? What was your workflow? Like, did you go back and change anything? Did you get any feedback? You had to go and reiterate the process. And a lot of it's to do with narrative as well. So there is a storytelling aspect within games as well. So that is key. So not just doing things because you're told to, but like, why are you doing it? Like, what does this lead the story in a certain direction? Why are you doing this prop for a level? You know, what does that give to the level? How does it enhance it? How does it enhance the gameplay experience for the player? So yeah, not just doing things because or randomly. There needs to be some sort of creative process behind it.
So if somebody like, let's say like the tech manager or the artist manager, for example, whatever they're called in that industry, if they were to tell one of the artists on their team that sits directly underneath them to do something, are they able to then push back and be like, I actually think this could work really well for this game?
It depends on the client for us. And I think it depends even if you're working on your own IP. You know, you can't just like take an idea and run with it. There are things that you need to consider. So as much creative license you might have, there are also the technical constraints. There's also time management, like deadlines are key within games. Like there's milestones and to meet. And
Budget too as well, guessing financial constraints on
yeah,
certain
financial
things.
constraints, technical constraints, like you know, the most detailed art might not work in the game because it uses, you know, the poly count's too high and we don't have that much resolution. Like there's a lot of things to consider. So it's trying to marry that perfect sort of that Venn diagram of like considering those different factors.
Fair play. Not a bit of a off-topic question, but what sort of games were you brought up on? Because I'm a big gamer myself, and I think everyone has their own unique sort of interests in terms of gaming. Like some people game on PC, some on the Sega from back in the day, some on the Nintendo Switch, DS. You've got consoles like PS5 now. You got Xbox. What's been your background in terms of, from a consumer standpoint, your own personal sort of gaming journey, but
Yeah.
also games you like as well?
So when I grew up, my brother's like 5 years older than me, and I remember watching him play on the Mega Drive. I would very rarely play because I was terrible, and games were hard back then as well. So like,
Mm.
I would watch him play things like Lemmings or like there were some like Disney games that were again really hard at the time. And then I got a little bit older, and I remember we got a PS1 for Christmas. And I think with that, my parents had brought Spyro the Dragon, and I was
Pyro, what game?
obsessed with that franchise. I bought the remastered one a few years back and just replayed it all. Still holds up. Still got stuck in the exact same places that I did when I was 10. And I was like so humbled. I was like, oh, this will be easy now. Absolutely not. And then what I enjoyed today, I really like I still like a platformer. I like an open world RPG. I like the Witcher series. I enjoyed Dead Island 2. I really like some sort of creepy games like Little Nightmares, but not too
Not my
scary.
thing.
I don't like things jumping out at me or chasing me. So
No,
like
neither.
I can do like a creepy vibe, but I can't do like yeah. There's a line with me of like, oh, this is a bit creepy, but then like jump scares and stuff that's like pitch black, I'm absolutely not doing. Can't do first person shooters either. I get too stressed when people are shooting at me. So
Really?
I really enjoy like Assassin's Creed, stuff like that. So yeah, more of like an RPG or a platformer.
Fair play. Did you play Crash Bandicoot at all? Because that was my like childhood. That was me.
Yeah,
Crash Bandicoot and football outside was
yeah.
me. That's my whole thing. Did you play Crash at all or not?
I played it a bit, but I just found for me it was a little bit boring in that it was quite repetitive. And also quite stressful.
Really?
Yeah, I just kind of I think the thing about an open world RPG, you can go at your own pace.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to do the main mission, you can just go and have a wander around or like pick up some side quests, go level up. Like yeah, it's just it's that pace I think for me I quite enjoy.
I've always wanted there to be a game invented on a bit like GTA, but you know how you can't go in all the buildings?
Hmm.
It doesn't feel like real life almost.
Okay, yeah.
I want to be able to go into every building, like the houses, and do whatever I want, like a bit more complex in terms of the
Okay.
actual intricacies. But there's not something like that on the market still, unfortunately. I think GTA 6 might be a bit like that, hopefully, a bit more like in depth on that front, but they've delayed that, haven't they, by another 6
Yeah.
months the other day, which is so annoying.
Yeah.
So
That would be
annoying.
crazy to program like something or like absolutely wild to like be able to program like you could go in every single building. I
Yeah.
think you can go in most buildings in The Witcher. There might not be anything in there. I just used to go and loot everyone's houses
Oh, really?
constantly. Yeah, I was just like such a little hoarder in an RPG, like constantly running out of space, but then go and sell everything.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Fair play, fair play. Um, I guess in terms of, like, building a culture in the studio, you may know a bit about that now, you've been there for a few years. Can you describe how you've helped to build a culture of I'm guessing you've grown by quite a bit since you've joined as well, you're now at 180 people or so. So how have you built a culture from not just in your team, but in terms of the overall company?
I mean, I can't really take credit for building the culture because it was already there when we joined. We were just able to kind of hopefully continue that and be consistent with what we what we preach. I think some of the main things that really attracted me to Wushu in the first place is so we've got an anti-crunch culture. So in the games industry, crunch is like a big thing. So mandatory overtime, like you hear horror stories from the past, and I think it still happens, especially in places like America, where work-life balance isn't really much of a thing, where
Yeah.
people will like work all hours of the day, sleep under their desk, just like crunch until they get the deadline or milestone delivery. And our studio founders had been in the industry for quite a while, and they were like, we're not going to do that because people get burnt out. Then they have to take time off because like their mental health might be bad, or like they might get physical health problems as a result. So they're like, we're not going to do that, and I feel like that's always been consistent. And then the thing that's kind of tied to that is that work-life balance. So like when you're off, you're off. So there's Slack's banned on your phone, so you're not you're not checking when you're off. Like if people catch you online, they're like, "Get off! You're supposed to be. You're on holiday today."
I
Um,
need that, Lauren. I need
yeah,
that big time.
it's nice. It makes a change because like I've definitely worked at places before that were like when you're off, you're like constantly stressed about your work because you're the only person that does that job. So then people will
Yeah.
still message you, and you're still expected to kind of be doing that work because that's what you're responsible for. But yeah, so I mean, a lot more studios, especially in the UK and especially in Europe, where like obviously we've got quite good employment laws and stuff like that. So I feel like the culture has gotten a lot better over here. America's maybe a little bit behind in that, but it's getting there.
Yeah, I think that we do a lot of work in the US and the way they work is just different level in terms of the hours they're actually putting in.
Yeah,
A lot of people here probably will work sort of 40 hours, 45 top sometimes, but over there it's like 70 hours sometimes, even for like
no
lower level
holidays.
roles.
Yeah,
Yeah, no holidays as
no
well. They don't
holidays,
take
no
time off.
maternity, paternity leave. Like doesn't
Yeah,
exist. Yeah,
no,
wild.
I don't personally like that, but I think
No.
that's their culture, I guess, and you know, it's hard to sort of people are used to it, so they're not really missing much because they know that's how it's always been over there. Where I think if they had it in the UK, they'd be a lot more happy. I think if they lived over here, but there we are. Um, in terms of recruitment, Lauren, obviously you've had quite a varied career in that specific sector. You have got experience in-house and also external. Is that correct?
No,
No,
I've always been internal.
have you? I thought you had
Yeah,
external experience as well.
no, always been
Oh my
internal.
word! Wow. What are your thoughts on external, as in the whole like industry?
um, I think like one of the reasons that I didn't want to go external is there's just the pressure of like targets and sales, and it just I don't know if that appealed to me. I kind of like being embedded somewhere where it's like I know what the culture is and I know that I'm going to find the right person. Um, like no offense to agency, like and a lot of agencies do great work, and I know a lot of great recruiters. Obviously I've worked with yourself, like you found people for us at my previous role, but there are a lot of agencies out there that are just about putting bums on seats. They want their commission, they get paid for it, they don't care if that obviously there are some contingency plans in place, but yeah, there are some unscrupulous people out there, and
Yeah.
I think all recruiters get a bad rep because of those people. um So yeah, I think
Shame.
there are obviously differences. Yeah, I know, and not everyone is like that. Um, but I think all salespeople at the end of the day, they get that reputation of kind of just wanting to make that sale and not really caring about the quality necessarily.
Yeah. I never used to get it's funny because obviously because I've always only worked external from my career point of view,
Mm.
but I never used to get any sales calls and emails when I was employed by somebody else. And I just thought like, they were doing no harm. But when you get like the amount of cold calls on that I get every
Mm.
day, I've never had anything like it. And it's actually put me off from doing cold calling
Yeah.
to other people just because like I'm in the middle of something and I have to take a call in case it's like an important
Yeah.
call. And then there's obviously a sales call coming in and,
Mm.
and they're trying to sell you really hard down the phone. But I also appreciate what they do as well at the same time if they approach it
Yeah.
correctly, if that makes sense. It's a really hard one, I think. I think sales is a really difficult one to sort of
Yeah.
like I haven't got like a set opinion, but I do find it hard when somebody's trying to sell me down the phone and I said that I'm busy and they don't
Mm.
respect it sort of thing. So
Yeah, I think it's quite an old school approach to just pick up the phone and just start ringing numbers. I don't think it's
yeah.
that effective. I mean, I've got really positive relationships with some agencies, even in the gaming space, where we've not used them, but I've got a good relationship with them. They're not trying to hard sell. They're not like shoving it down
Mm,
my throat. Like I'm mates with them, and if we did need them, I'd probably go to them. Um,
yeah.
I think that sort of softly approach is better. But also, like you'll probably have this as well. You get people just sending you random emails or ringing you
Oh God.
when their service isn't relevant to your business.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating thing. It's like I get people trying to pitch me candidates for roles that we don't have.
Lauren, I get pitched candidates and we're not even an engineering company or a tech company. And
Yeah.
I'm like, have you even checked who I am before you send the
No,
email?
they
I'm
they
not
don't. It's just
like
on
I don't work
numbers.
in
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Having said that, Lauren, one thing that we're exploring at the moment is automation workflows because we've I think for me, I'm very protective over our reputation. And so we haven't really done any automation based work ever since starting 2.5 years ago. And I think that's probably you know, a bit bad from us really, because most companies do it
Mm.
nowadays. But I'm always worried about if we send something to the wrong person, are they going to think these guys are idiots because they haven't checked who we are and that sort of stuff? But I think we've come to the point now where we're that busy with like trying to help people place into a role that it's hard to do the outreach stuff as well. So we're having a think about outreach and stuff. Do you have to do the same thing with automation internally? How does that work in terms of the outreach from your side as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to automate as much as possible in terms of taking the admin out of stuff, but only for things like so when you apply, you get an email that acknowledges that you've applied. If we reject you sort of at the first stage of applications, you will get an automatic rejection email. But I think it's better than getting nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I set up those things when we first had our ATS. We use our ATS now to send the NDAs across before we do interviews. Um, what else? Also, scheduling phone interviews. I've got an automation. If I move someone to a certain part of our pipeline, they will get emailed linked to my calendar to book in. It just
Oh well.
saves time. You could go back and forth with someone, be like, "Hi, I'd like to speak to you. When are you free?" And then they email you back, and then maybe the next day you email them back, and it's in that time I've probably arranged sort of 5 to 10 interviews.
Yeah.
So it's just about efficiency for me. Like I think you still can have those human touch points where at least people feel acknowledged. And in an
Mm,
ideal world, yeah, we would email every single candidate and you'd all get personalized feedback. But you need to be realistic. When there's 1,000 people applying for a role, that's not going to happen.
no.
So I think they'd much rather at least have a rejection than just be ghosted.
I think that's something that I need to take on board and on because I still do everything manually in terms of the actual everything like rejection stuff is all manual from our side. So I think efficiency is really important. And I think staying focused, Lauren, as well. Automation does help you stay a lot more focused, I think. We only started trying this week on Monday, by the way. So I think for me, I haven't got ADHD, but I'm not diagnosed with it, but I think I have some type of ADHD where I sort of do 10 things at once, Lauren. I can't focus on one thing for too long. So I think for me, having automation there is going to really help me to be more productive. So that's the main reason that I'm going to be looking at stuff like that, if that makes sense. Um, But yeah, no, what tools do you use, Lauren, in terms of automation? What sort of tools do you use that other people might be able to go away and utilize?
I mean, currently as our ATS, we're using Workable, but if any ATS will have those automations set up, so you just need to set them up. Be like, if I put this person in this stage, they will get this email, and then only like super admins will have those permissions. So obviously, you don't want, so no offense to hiring managers, but like you don't want them just moving candidates all over the place. So like we do manage the permissions in that hiring managers can see everyone, but they can't start moving people around. We've also then automated it so that if someone is, so we send the offer through the ATS. If they accept the offer, and we move them into hired, they will then automatically be created a profile on our HRIS system.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
it's just taking all that manual labor out. Like, you know, when we were maybe like 20 people, it was doable. It is not at this, you know,
No.
when you've scaled to the size, or when you're dealing with those volumes. Like I said, like it's not unheard of for us to have had 1,500 applications for one role, and you just need to be realistic about, you know, why am I doing this manually? Does it need to be done manually? And can I be doing this more efficiently?
And that's at 180 people. Imagine like 10,000 employees, how
Yeah,
companies feel about that. It must be next level in terms of the volume of stuff that's coming through and being sent out
yeah.
and that sort of thing. What's the future of gaming, Lauren, for you? Like, where do you see gaming going as a whole?
It's one of those, like, obviously, you know, you mentioned GTA 6 due to come out. I think there are still, you know, there's still big games that are coming out and they are massively successful. It's still a really profitable industry. I think, like I said, natural peaks and troughs in any industry. I think it will continue to be profitable. You know, new consoles coming out all the time. We had the Switch 2 earlier this year. I think Steam have just announced they're going to do a console now as well.
Oh, really?
Uh,
Oh, wow.
I think Xbox are looking at doing some sort of cross-platform thing where like any game that you've got on any platform will be playable through there. Like, yeah, so there's a lot happening, and I think it's still, you know, it's still profitable. We've got, I keep seeing more and more like bars pop up that are like arcade bars, and you know, there's a lot of history now in gaming as well. There's like a place, I think there's a couple of them called Arcade Club. There's a few in the north, which is like 3 floors of like different gaming consoles back from like the 80s
Oh, wow.
through to now. And whenever I've been, it's super busy. So I think, yeah, and like you've got, you know, different sectors. You've got like cozy games, you've got mobile games, you've got Twitch streams. Like it's still massively profitable, I think. I've read that apparently it's more profitable now in the UK than the gas and oil industry. So
What?
I think the
Oh, wow.
government's starting to cotton onto it, and there's a lot more funding going into sort of um, developing sort of people that want to create their own studios or they've got their own games, sort of investing into that to try and get that homegrown, keep that money, keep that money in the UK.
Yeah, yeah. The end of the day, everything's about money, isn't it? Unfortunately, that's how the world works and operates and stuff. And I think gaming is business at the end of the day. That's what it is. So, although as consumers we don't always see it as a business, it's just fun for us. But behind the scenes, as you said earlier on, I think there's so many things that happen to make a game playable and to get it to market and sell it. So, yeah, I find it very intriguing that point of view. Lauren, from like, can you recommend any thing to candidates in terms of what skills they need to get into gaming? Because you mentioned about some technical skills is always great from like university, but is there any soft skills you need to be a success in gaming across any roles?
Yeah, massively important, especially at entry level when you're trying to, you know, stand out. Like we do assess people, they have to have strong soft skills, otherwise it's just not going to work. I think one of the misconceptions in games is that like, you know, you come in and you just go and you just make a game by yourself. It is not. It is a huge process. You know, massive teams, like hundreds of people, cross disciplines, all collaborating. So like teamwork and collaboration is super key, super important. If you don't work well with others, I think you'll struggle. So yeah, it's not just that. I think there's maybe a bit of an old conception of like programmers sitting in a dark room coding by themselves. Like it is not. There is never a part of making games that is like a solitary process. Um, yeah, so yeah, I would say that's probably one of the most important. And then there's things like responding well to feedback. You know, it's very rare. It's very much a reiterative process. Like it's never a one and done. It's like, oh, I've made this thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool. Now do it again and change this. Or like, you know, projects get cancelled, and it is frustrating. You could have worked on something for years and it never sees the light of day. But if you're not resilient to that, or resilient to someone telling you to change everything or start again, or we're going in a different direction, so those soft skills are super important.
It sounds like mental toughness is part of it as well, which I didn't actually realize. I didn't actually think about that. You might be a developer or an artist that's working on a game for 2 or 3 years, and then it actually never gets released. It gets scrapped because no one likes it and there's no ratings for it or something.
Yeah,
That must be quite frustrating, and I think the mental strength to get through that and then go again on the next game.
absolutely.
I didn't even think of that as a
Yeah.
thing, by the
And
way.
then they've
Didn't
got
consider
nothing to
that.
show for it because all that work's under NDA, so they can't put that in a portfolio even and be like, I've been doing this for the last 5 years. It just doesn't exist. It's like in the ether. But like they should still be able to talk about their time working on obviously, you know, to an extent, and be like, I did XYZ on an unnamed project.
Yeah,
um
yeah.
but yeah, again, resilience is key, I think, especially in an industry that has so many ups and downs.
So obviously, because with being under NDA, so they can document stuff, so throughout their journey, but they can't document exactly the exact details and who they've worked for, etc., what game it is. But if they document their stuff for 3 years, then if their project goes to scrap, then obviously you can still say what you've done. No?
It depends. So if you were
Oh, right.
if I use an artist as an example, they wouldn't be able to show us any of the artwork that they've been working on, but they could describe what they'd done in terms of like, what did your workflow look like? Did you have an example of something that you implemented as a suggestion of, you know, something that you came up with? But they would not be able to go, here is the artwork that I did.
Right, okay. That makes sense. It's similar to SC clearance in a way, because
Mm.
obviously people that are SC cleared, they work on government projects, they can't really
Yes.
explain what they've done.
Yeah, exactly the same.
I've actually I've got a friend who's a DevOps engineer, Lauren. He's one of my best friends. It's funny because we met when we were 5 years old. We were next door neighbors, and he did like aerospace engineering at university, and then he became a DevOps engineer. And then obviously I became into this space as well. And I went to his wedding back in before my leg injury in August. And he was like, I said, like, Johnny, what do you do like in your job and stuff? And he was like, Ben, I'd have to kill you to tell you that. I can't tell you because
Yeah.
I'm DV clear. Like, I can't see
Yeah.
anything about the project at all. And I was like, Johnny, just tell me. We're friends. Like, put your phone over there and we can just speak about it. He won't do it. He won't tell me anything about it,
No,
any of his
it's the
work.
same. Yeah.
People are they're really like fair play to them. I'd have to spill it. I think I couldn't be SC cleared. I don't think I'd have to say it.
I mean,
But
normally the good thing about games is obviously if they do get published, then you know it's not a secret anymore, and the work's out there, your name's in the credits. So yeah,
fair play. Um, what's your favorite game of all time and why?
I think that's a tough one. I think I mentioned some of my favorites. Like obviously Spyro, like for the nostalgia value, but I do really enjoy like The Witcher. Looking forward to the new one coming out, just because I think I got like 100 or something hours on of gameplay on that, and like
Oh wow.
it'd be something that I'd be happy to go back and play again. And it was sort of like my reintroduction into gaming. Like when I joined the industry, I was like, well, for research, I should probably, you know, go and play some stuff. And that was, I think I was still pretty late to the party on that one, but it was still pretty popular. And I think it still holds up today. So yeah.
Fair play. All right. Do you have any questions for me, Lauren, about anything?
Not that I can think of.
No tough questions for me. I'll normally get a
I
tough
don't
question
know.
or two.
Have you ever thought about like games recruitment, or is it just an area that you're like, no, I'm not touching that?
No, we do work. So we do
Yeah.
some work with some gaming companies, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert
Yeah.
in gaming recruitment. I think because obviously we're just DevOps and cloud. So
Mm.
for us, they don't always use
Yeah.
like those technologies to
Yeah.
build games. So it's sort of few and far between. But there's a few we work with down south in London,
Mm.
and one in Manchester as well. Um, but I wouldn't go around and sort of specifically work for gaming recruitment. I don't
Yeah.
think. I think it's very difficult line as well.
Yeah.
Gaming recruitment's hard. It's really hard. I think that the different levels of skill sets you have to recruit for is very vast compared to maybe just tech companies, I would say. I'm not sure if you agree.
Yes and no. I think we still have all the normal, like compared to my last role, the only difference is that I hire artists now.
Yeah,
But I guess I'm quite lucky in that I feel like I've got the eye for it almost. I think if you play games and you know what looks good, and then you start looking at portfolios, and like honestly, I must when we're hiring for artists, I'll look at hundreds of portfolios a day. So it's very
brilliant.
quick to
Wow.
see like what's good and what's bad. Um, so yeah, I think that's only the most different thing. There are obviously there's like producers, I guess, are different, but I would say they're akin to a project manager. So I think if you're good at recruitment, it doesn't really matter what the role is. But I would say like probably art is the most niche, and knowing like what is a good portfolio and why things are technically good or bad. But then there's also like technical art is an interesting one. So that is like sort of the person that bridges between programming and art. So they create tools to make the art process sort of more streamlined. So they're quite interesting as well. But I've obviously like coming in, I had no knowledge of anything, so it was a bit of a steep learning curve. I was like, oh, I don't know anything, so I had a bit of imposter syndrome like at first because yeah, I guess Wushu took a bit of a chance on me because I had no background in this. So
Learning curve then for you when you first started and to get up to speed and then obviously prove yourself, which you have done obviously 3 years in, so fair play for that. Have you learned anything yourself? Have you tried to sort of like help design one of their games, or can you get involved in that at all? Do they give you a chance or not?
I think if I begged hard enough, they would let me. But then yeah, I think it's one of those. It's like I don't know, like can you code? Like you know, like I know enough to hire the people that could do it, but obviously my
Yeah,
technical knowledge, like there is a line, and
there's levels,
sometimes
isn't there?
yeah, there's
Yeah.
like if a candidate asks me a question that is super technical, I will just straight up put my hands up and be like, that would be a great question for the hiring manager. um, but yeah, I know enough. But I think any good recruiter will learn what the roles are, the ins and outs, like the need to have. Um,
And you know in 5 minutes, Donna, speaking to candidates, you know if they're like chatting rubbish or if they actually know what they're talking
yeah.
about. I think you learn that skill as well over time. So, um, yeah, I know what you mean. Question for the next guest, Lauren. Do you have anything in particular you'd like to ask them? Because I actually had the question, but it got deleted on the files
Oh
for
no.
you. So there's not a question for you, unfortunately. But yeah,
Do you
is there a question you'd like to ask the next guest?
okay? Do you know who the next guest is?
No. So no
Okay.
one ever does. It's
All
like
right.
it could
Okay.
be anything about anything, any question.
I would probably ask like, what is the biggest challenge that you find that's specific to your sector?
Nice.
Because I think that
All right.
does vary. Because I try to go to like some networking events or like knowledge sharing events that people put on, and then you get to network with people from different industries. And I think it's always interesting to find out like what challenges their recruitment team are having. Because like, I think one of them, like we were speaking to like people that are like they work for couriers, as in like I think it was like every so like how do they encourage people to go and work as delivery drivers, what their marketing campaigns look like. Obviously they're huge nationwide campaigns and they're hiring thousands of people, so what challenges do they have, and it's going to be vastly different to what we have, but then taking inspiration, I think you can learn a lot from different industries and seeing what their challenges are, even if they are vastly different from your own.
Oh, fair play. That makes sense. That's a good question, Lawrence. I think I was trouble with that one, which is even better. So it should be a longer answer. But no, thanks for Laura for coming on, by the way. It's been great chatting with you again. I know it's been a while. So yeah, thanks for your time and yeah, speak soon.
Thanks. It was nice to catch up.
Bye, Lauren. Thank you.